That's the way it was with Gabriel. Everything that he wants, he can get. With Pedro, it is the opposite. Everything that he has is enough. Both of them, they are happy. But to be in between, not so little anymore and not yet 19 years, to be me, Miguel, and to have a great wish, that is hard. Continuing my read through the Newbery Award winners, today we have Now Miguel by Joseph Krumgold, which won the award in 1954. Joseph Krumgold was born in Jersey City in 1908. A lot of his family was involved in various aspects of the movie industry, owning theaters and various things, and he knew from a pretty young age that he wanted to follow in that family business. He started working for MGM Studios and bounced around to a bunch of different studios, doing a lot of different things, but eventually becoming a screenwriter and a film producer. He worked for some of the biggest names in film and then decided to strike out on his own. He wrote a lot of different screenplays and scripts, and he even got an Academy Award nod. As he progressed in his craft, he became really fascinated with documentaries and started traveling around and filming those. His wife and their son often traveled with him. He spent a couple of years in Israel and then came back to the United States and wanted to create this documentary about a Mexican-American boy from New Mexico whose family were all sheep farmers. He wasn't quite sure if the documentary was going to do the subject justice, and a publisher convinced him to write a book. And that's how And Now Miguel came to be. So he didn't consider himself a writer and kind of just wrote this book in order to tell this story. So he was rather surprised when he won this Children's Literature Award. He also became the first author to win the Newbery twice when his other book, Onion John, won in 1960. And Now Miguel is from the perspective of 12-year-old Miguel. His family are all sheep farmers, and he's sort of at that in-between stage where you're not quite a child anymore, but you're not quite an adult. And he's trying to find his way. And his greatest dream, which was referred to in that opening quote, is to travel with the other men when they go up the mountain for the summer to take the sheep for grazing. He tells his younger brother he has a plan and then realizes he needs to come up with one, and sets out to prove to everybody that he would be an asset on this trip. Spoilers from this point forward. During the Feast of San Isidro, he prays that he would be able to go no matter what it takes. A little while later, he receives the news that he is in fact going to be able to go with them, but it is because his older brother has been drafted into the army. He kind of goes through this crisis of conscience, believing that it's his fault that his brother has to leave the family, that he was selfish in this wish that he made. He and his brother end up having this really philosophical conversation about how they both had these desires, how they had prayed for things, but they weren't expecting the answer to come the way that it was, and then trying to grapple with that and understand if this wish or prayer came true, why are there larger problems? Why is there war? And just really trying to figure out kind of how life works together. Gabriel goes off to the army, and Miguel travels with his father and uncles up to the mountains, where he is just taken completely in awe by this place, by the beauty of it, and by his wish coming true. It did take me a little bit to get into the flow of the narrative. It's almost like a stream of consciousness from Miguel's perspective, but I felt like Krumgold did a pretty good job of capturing that running dialogue in a kid's head. It didn't feel like an adult trying to sound like a kid, and learning that this was actually based on real people makes me wonder sort of how much research and contact he had with the Miguel that he knew in real life and how much he pulled from that. He has a bit of a hard time expressing himself, and he's a bit of a dreamer, and it stands a little bit in contrast with his father, who seems to be very practical and is always in the middle of a task. So there's miscommunications that happen there as he's trying to figure out how to explain what is going on in his head to his father, and that doesn't always work out well, and that also felt very realistic. I actually found myself laughing out loud quite a bit. Some of it was just the right observations and the way that Miguel tells the story, but there were also things that I'm not sure a kid would pick up that an adult picks up. For example, his father gives him a task of planning out this new gate that they're going to use when they do the sheep shearing, and he kind of marks everything out, shows it to his father, and then he comments something along the lines of, his father used it exactly the way that he did it, except he moved it over 3 feet and then he changed both ends of it. And I just felt that that was so funny, because when you involve kids, a lot of times they just see that involvement as being a win, even if you change most of what they came up with. He was like, he used it exactly, but everything was actually changed. And things like that just made me really laugh. There isn't a lot that quote unquote happens in this book. It's really focused on Miguel's kind of internal growth as he tries to figure out how to grow up and how to make his place in this family. So it's just the day-to-day happenings of the farm. You have the feast day, you have the sheep shearers coming in, and then of course the end. But those are kind of the biggest events that happen. Overall, I ended up really enjoying this. I really enjoyed Miguel and his voice and his development over the course of the story. And I thought there were some really beautiful passages in it, so I'm going to leave you with one of my favorites. This is from the end of the book when Miguel is at that threshold from where he's been all his life and actually heading up the mountain. This was it. This was the minute that divided everything. All the time before from what was here, until this minute, everything important was ahead, what was coming to wait for. From this minute, it was different. The most important thing was happening right now. To hope and to be afraid, to plan, that time was ended. There was nothing to do except in this minute, and that was to look and to breathe and to stand here where I was. This was it, the minute. Next up, we have The Wheel on the School by Meinert de Jong. Thanks and happy reading!